Your local McDonald's owners across Washington, D.C., Greater Baltimore, and Eastern Shore are committed community members who all celebrate the diversity of the neighborhoods that they serve. Black History Month is a special time to spotlight the many African American and Black individuals and organizations that have contributed to our area's growth and development. McDonald's sees, supports, and celebrates you now and all year long.
On today's Smart 7, Prince William calls for Gaza's ceasefire, immigration row leads to Zoom sacking and much more. It's Wednesday, 21st of February, it's Sticky Bun Day, and happy birthday, Michael McIntyre.
The Smart 7, it's news, but not the news.
The International Court of Justice heard further submissions from South Africa on Tuesday as it described Israel's occupation of Gaza as an even more extreme form of apartheid than the regime formerly in place in South Africa. It came as the World Health Organization accused Israel of deliberately hindering a rescue mission around the Nasser hospital, and UNICEF warned of an unbearable level of child deaths as the food shortages continue to grow worse. Despite that, a UN Security Council resolution brought by Algeria to demand an immediate ceasefire was blocked by a US veto, while the UK also abstained. US Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, says there's still work to be done.
Proceeding with a vote today was wishful and irresponsible. And so while we cannot support a resolution that would put sensitive negotiations in jeopardy, we look forward to engaging on a text that we believe will address so many of the concerns we all share.
Prince William spoke out on the conflict on Tuesday, saying too many have been killed and calling for an end to the fighting. With an SNP motion on a ceasefire in the Commons on Wednesday, Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy explains that Labour is also in favour of an end to the fighting.
We are following our Five Eyes partners, Australia, New Zealand and Canada, who a few days ago made it clear that there has to be an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. We are mirroring that language and indeed the language now of the United Nations.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was down on the farm on Tuesday. Well, at the National Farmers Union conference in Birmingham anyway. There have been waves of protest from farmers across Europe over climate change regulations, and Welsh farmers have also been taking to their tractors. Rishi was the first Prime Minister to address the conference since 2008, and he was pledging that he'd have the farmers' backs and announce new investment in agriculture.
We'll never take our food security for granted. We've got a plan to support British farming. We promise that across this Parliament, every penny of the £2.4 billion annual farming budget would be spent on you. And we will absolutely meet that promise.
Labour's Shadow Environment Secretary Steve Reid says that the only reason Rishi was in attendance was because of poor Tory polling numbers and the ongoing crisis in British farming.
Well, I think it's very interesting that the Prime Minister was panicked into having to go and speak at the farmers' conference today. That is because of the absolute devastation this government has wrought on British farming.
There was a fresh crisis over immigration on Tuesday as a dispute escalated between the Home Secretary James Cleverly and David Neil, the Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration. Neil, who was due to step down next month after 3 years in the role, has produced 15 reports which the government has failed to publish. He is accused of making comments to the Daily Mail pointing out that poor security checks on private flights into the UK is a huge risk to border security. That appears to have annoyed the Home Secretary, who had him sacked over Zoom on Tuesday afternoon. Labour's Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says the prospect of hundreds of high-risk flights landing without checks is a symptom of how the government has lost control of borders.
The Conservatives have broken the asylum system, bust the Home Office budget, badly undermined Britain's border security and put our country's security at risk. Will they ever get a grip? Yeah.
Julian Assange's legal team were back in court on Tuesday, making a last-ditch attempt to prevent the WikiLeaks founder's extradition to the United States. He's been in jail in Belmarsh Prison since 2019, but could face up to 175 years in prison in the US if convicted of espionage charges. His extradition was approved by then Home Secretary Priti Patel back in June last year, and now his lawyers are seeking leave to appeal in the High Court. If they fail in their bid to get a full hearing, his extradition looks almost certain. His wife Stella led protests outside the court.
The United States is abusing its legal system in order to hound and prosecute and intimidate all of you. What's at stake is the ability to publish the truth and expose crimes when they're committed by states.
Still to come on today's Smart 7, Joe Lycett wades into murky waters and Man City close the gap on Liverpool. Right after this.
Spin your passion into a business with Shopify and break sales records with the world's best converting checkout. Let's hear that one more time. The world's best converting checkout. Shopify's legendary checkout makes it easier for customers to shop on your website, across social media, and everywhere in between. Now that's music to your ears. Any way you spin it, you can be a smash hit with Shopify. Start your $1 a month trial today at shopify.com/records.
Welcome back. There was Premier League and Champions League action on Tuesday night. The last 16 first legs continued with Inter Milan beating Atletico Madrid 1-0 and PSV drawing 1-1 with Dortmund. Arsenal faced Porto on Wednesday night. In the Premier League, Man City welcomed Brentford, who had lost 4-1 to Liverpool at the weekend. They gave City a good game, but a 71st minute goal from Erling Haaland was enough to get City the 3 points and put them 1 point behind Liverpool. Pep sounded tired but happy after the game.
Yeah, we played a really, really good game. We had a lot of chances considering how difficult it is to create against them. And yeah, so our game in hand, we won it and now recover and come to the toughest period of the season.
Tuesday night on Channel 4 saw comedian Joe Lycett in deep shit. It was for a good cause as the documentary Joe Lycett vs. Sewage waded into some murky waters in search of answers about the UK's waterworks. In the show, a whistleblower describes the UK's water infrastructure as absolutely dilapidated and held together with sticky plaster. Joe's not been afraid to dip his toe into political waters either, and Times Radio wanted to know how he'd rate current PM Rishi Sunak against rivals such as Liz Truss, and does he think he'd be any good as PM?
Is it better to fall off a cliff or a bridge? It's hard to know, isn't it? I think he presents well and he looks nice in a suit, but I think there probably are people in the country who might do a better job. I would be better at it drunk, I think.
It doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out that America isn't in great shape politically at the moment. Even as the economy recovers, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans seem intent on increasing political divisions, particularly when it comes to immigration and the border. But what if the unthinkable happened and things accelerated to a second civil war? The new movie from A24 asks that question in a Black Mirror kind of way, written and directed by Alex Garland of The Beach and 28 Days Later. Civil War stars Kristen Dunst and Wagner Moura, and it hits cinemas on April 12th.
Citizens of America, people of the Florida Alliance, and the Western forces of Texas and California will be welcomed back to these United States as soon as their illegal secessionist government is deposed.
You don't know what side they're fighting for. Someone's trying to kill us. We are trying to kill them.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
How many of your employees are trying to balance paying bills and saving for retirement? Support your participants today and tomorrow with Vanguard well on your way at institutional.vanguard.com. All investing is subject to risk. Advice provided by Vanguard Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor.